to another great episode in our transformational series. And today we are going to be discussing how you can have a true exercise routine. So today is going to be more so of an intro as well as to really get you started, especially if you have had issues with maintaining a physical regimen or just staying on track, or just even if you are doing it, but you kind of seem like you're doing it in intervals or sporadic. I want to help you with that today. But before I do that, I want to make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to our channel at Robotic 1212, make sure you do that. Hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us because we're coming out with some amazing content throughout the remainder of this year, because we always want to give you the best when it comes to, spiritual, nutritional, physical, as well as behavioral content. So we want you to stay up to date with us because, again, we want to serve you the best, and we're going to keep doing that week by week. So diving into today's topic, when it comes to developing an exercise routine, for some people it can just be kind of horrible or just even a traumatic experience to even think about exercising. One, because you did it and you may have injured yourself. Two, you may have started doing it, but you just felt like this ain't really me. And it can be any number of reasons. But one reason I wanted to share with you, and I hope this was going to be a motivational factor for you, is that as I looked at statistics in the past and I saw trends from year over year, I saw that even up to today, I think that out of every two out of every three people, could be more than that, tend to be either overweight and or at the risk of obesity. And so this means that even starting down to the ages of adolescence all the way up to adulthood, that individuals are experiencing the issue of being overweight or even obesity. And this can be an issue because being overweight or obese can increase your chances of having different types of illnesses such as coronary heart disease or even certain cardiovascular diseases, things that you really don't want to encounter, especially if you ever had to do a procedure or surgery and you are in the hospital. And I can tell you that it's never a fun thing to be in the hospital because a lot of times things may not always go the way you planned. And so then you're dealing with, trying to have your health issue dealt with on top of dealing with the hospital, because they could further complicate the issue by not really, being as thorough. And again, it's nothing against hospitals, but I'm just letting you know that these factors do exist. And this is something that a lot of people do not take into account when it comes to exercise or fitness. So I want to share some tips with you. And again, these are things that I actually do myself because I believe that it would be useless for me to share something with you that I haven't used over and over again, and at least see, what are ways that this could be improved. So these are actually 5 things that I do myself. And again, I hope that they can serve, as a guide for you or even just motivate you to really stay on the fitness track. Because again, when it comes to fitness, it's going to be vital for our long-term health to make sure that we're not just staying idle, making sure that our body is in the best care possible. Okay, so starting with the way I like to look at really getting into an exercise routine, because what we're doing today is we want to help you to establish a foundation, a true foundation, so that when anything in life comes up, you know how to stay on track and it doesn't cause you to be away for 2 or 3 weeks at a time before you actually feel some resistance with your body, like moving or doing some exercise routines. So, say all that to say, the first point is, it really does take planning. And the first two I have are planning and scheduling. And sometimes these can be combined, but I like to look at planning as really just writing down, okay, let me kind of see like how would this look. in terms of, okay, what am I actually working on? And am I working on more cardiovascular or cardio routines, or am I doing more so strength training? Like, what is my goal? And that is kind of why I look at it as planning. And then also, okay, based on these routines, what is the time that would be sufficient for me to complete these in a given week? And then, when I identify the time, so let's say it's like 60 minutes or an hour, or could be an hour and 30 minutes. Usually between that range is recommended, or you could do 45 minutes. But anyway, once you identify, okay, this is the time a day that I would like to do it, how many days would be sufficient for me to do this, as well as realistically, because the last thing you want to do is set a date and you know that it may not work the best for your schedule. So I always like to think of it this way: let me really start small. So even if that's like 2 days a week or 3 days a week, at least I know that these 2 days a week I am going to be consistent. One day a week, I, I'm not going to recommend because that's not really getting enough, but I will say at least 2 days a week if you have to start off minimum. And again, this is not like a standard, but I'm just saying if you have had an issue with exercising, at least start off this way, because what is going to happen is once you start out this way, it doesn't mean that you're going to continue with 2 days a week. So as we, kind of plan out our schedule, and we understand, okay, these are some of the routines I want to do, as well as like rep sets, types of exercises. Where am I going to work out at? Am I going to do it at home, or am I going to do it at a gym? This is all in the planning phases, because again, if you kind of just go into this routine thinking, okay, I'll just figure things out as I go, you may start to realize, okay, I really should have thought about this beforehand, because this is just not working. But at least this way, it helps you with feeling more comfortable, because this is what the planning is pretty much doing. It's helping you to feel as comfortable as possible, because the more comfortable you feel, the more motivated you'll feel about proceeding. So once you really identify, okay, this is what I'm going to work out at, and even if it's a hybrid, that's okay. This is what works best for you. And there may be some additional questions, but these are just some questions for you to start thinking about. So moving on to the scheduling phase, and I like to look at this as, okay, I figured pretty much everything got in the planning phase, and the scheduling phase is pretty much a follow up in terms of saying, okay, what days of the week works best for me, as well as times for me to really make sure I'm exercising or working out. And then once you figure that out, it could be Tuesdays and Thursdays, it could be Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, it could be some off days, it could be Mondays, Tuesdays, and then Thursdays, and then you have a rest day. Could be whatever, as long as you also getting some rest days in between and staying fully hydrated and eating the proper nutrition, then this is really going to help you with your goals. So, kind of going to the third phase, because, like I said, the planning and the scheduling phase are quite similar. The next phase is what I like to call the execution phase, because once you have pretty much done the planning and the scheduling, the execution phase is pretty much going to put what you have written down or even scheduled into action. And so this is where you're actually working out. So whether you're doing resistance training, cardio, this is going to be you putting in the work. And don't let, one day or, a couple of days throw you off, especially if you say, well, I feel a lot of pain. It's always important to make sure that, of course, you're doing proper stretching of your muscle before you engage in different routines, as well as know that there is going to be pain when it comes to working out. That means that your body is pretty much uh, doing a lot of work that it's not used to doing, but that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. Now, I will say some people can take it overboard to where they are pretty much just destroying their muscle tissues. But I will say that it's important to, whatever routine that you're doing it safely, that if there are any awkward positions, that you really understand the best way to perform that routine. Okay, and so these are just recommendations, but the execution phase is really going to be you actually doing the workout. Okay, and then a follow up to that is consistency. Okay, so a person can go to the gym or they can work out at home, but if you do not remain consistent with that, then it's kind of useless because the consistency will either show whether you wanted to gain muscle or lose, weight, essentially burning fat, or if you're just trying to maintain or you're trying to essentially tone your body if you're maintaining, you're just trying to keep a nice physique. And this is really going to show in terms of your consistency. And I can tell you from experience, because I've actually done it, working out over a time and staying consistent with it, you start to see some amazing results, especially if you continue to be consistent. Now, it's not like how you may see a lot of fitness models who may tell you to do this within a short amount of time and you'll, be fit by this time period or that time period. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but a lot of times they're not really giving you the full truth. That is what I'm going to say. Because the full truth about it is, let's say you could lose however much weight within 30 days. Well, there's always this question of how will you maintain? Because if you don't know how to maintain, then you can easily gain however much weight you lost back, or that muscle, it can start to decline if you don't know how to properly maintain it. And so this is where the consistency phase comes in at, because it's going to be vital for you to stay consistent. So again, it kind of goes back to the planning phase, knowing, okay, what days and what time schedule works for me. Even if I have an off day, how do I really make that up in terms of the rest of the week or the next couple of days or even like today? Let me see if I can do like a quick, workout. It could be 5 or 10 minutes or just some stretching. Even those small things make a big difference because that is at least saying, you know what, I'm not just going to not do anything. Okay. I am going to do something today. Okay. Because I want to give, the Lord my best. And I don't just want to take, today as an excuse, but I really want to do something, even if it's not my usual time for working out. I'm going to do something and that is going to work for me. Okay. And so the last step or phase that I would call is a review. So once you have really gone through the planning, scheduling, execution, and consistency phases, last stage is review, because this is going to be where you can look back and you can see, okay, well, what I have implemented, is this working for me? And then this is where you can make adjustments in saying, okay, the scheduling isn't working for me, but I think these days work, or these times work. This gym closed, so I have to figure out another option. But how long will that take me to do? And in the meantime, what can I do to make sure I'm staying physically active in terms of working out? And then also looking at, okay, are there any routines that are, causing me to feel stressed in certain parts of my body, or have I developed an injury and there are certain routines that I just cannot perform because it's going to stress this muscle out a lot or cause more pain. So these are just questions for you to think about to really help you with that foundation, because like I said, today we are establishing that foundation for you to ensure that you are making the best changes moving forward. So again, starting with the planning, the scheduling phase, the execution, the consistency phase, and then the review of how are things going. And then if things are going well, hey, let's keep it up. And what I always like to do is, if the past couple of weeks have been going well, I just take it up a notch. So for example, going back to 2 days a week, if I schedule 2 days to start off, if everything is going well, I will increase it by a day. So it's 3 days a week, or you could take it up to 4 days. It depends on your time, your scheduling. And then when it comes to like your sets or your reps during your workout routines, I always increase those for Even if I do lower my reps or my sets, I may increase the weight. And so it's kind of like small changes like that. Even in between working out, the rest period, do you give yourself a minute? Or if you're really trying to push yourself, you could give yourself a 30-second or 45-second rest period in between sets, because this is going to help pace you. It's giving you that breather, but it's also keeping your muscles engaged. And so these are just some things for you to think about and to be aware of as you are setting this foundation. Because again, once you really go through each of these phases, you'll see that it's not as bad as what you had thought it to be. Okay, so I hope that this really helps you with establishing some framework to really start exercising, because again, it is going to be important for your health. Not for me, don't do it for me, but do it for you, because I want to see you at your best. Okay, so if you really enjoyed this message, I want you to make sure that you like and subscribe to our page. Even like this video, add a comment about some things that you liked or some things that you kind of have a concern about, because I do want to help you the best I can, because I want to see you again at your best. So again, make sure that you like and subscribe to our page, like this video, add a comment, and stay tuned, because we're coming to you next week with our last transformational series. So I don't want you to miss that. Make sure you tune in for that. And until next week, I will see you then.